Call this meeting to order. If we'd all stand for the pledge of allegiance, please.
Scanning stuff.
Not that I...
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're right.
Okay, roll call, please.
Okay, Councilmember Jessen,
Is here.
Councilmember Witten,
I'm here.
Councilmember Conover. Present. Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Bozick.
Here.
And Councilmember Rivas.
Here.
7 present.
Terrific. Approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Second.
Motion on the floor that has a second to approve the May 16th, 2017 council meeting minutes. Any discussion?
Do we have our June minutes yet, do you know?
No.
Will we have them for the next meeting?
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. First reading, please.
Okay, notice is hereby given the taxpayers of Porter County, Indiana, that the proper legal officers of Porter County will meet in the Porter County Government Administration Building at 155 Indiana Avenue, Valparaiso, Indiana, on July 25th, 2017, at 5:30 p.m. to consider the following additional appropriations in excess of the county budgets for the year 2017 and to transact any further business which might come before the council. General Fund, Portage Township Assessor, 3130 Training and Ed, $375. Portage Township Assessor, 3210 Travel, $2,000. Juvenile Probation, 1110 Salaries, a reduction of $17,223. Plan Commission Fund, 4540 Other Equipment, $12,000. Stormwater Fund, 1182, 1110 Salaries, $33,000. 1210 FICA, $2,640. 1220 Medical Life Insurance, $9,000. 1230 PERF, $3,600. Sheriff Donations Fund, $3950 Contractual Services, $12,000. $3980 Event Expenses, $1,000. $4540 Other Equipment, $6,000. Cable Franchise Fund, $4906. $4320 Roads and Taxiways, $213,526.39. DEA Byrne Memorial Grant Fund, 8118, 3710 Equipment, $234,000, 3950 Contractual Services, $1,000. Adult Probation Community Corrections Grant Fund, 9164, 1110 Salaries, $70,000, 1210 FICA, $5,355. 1220 Medical Life Insurance, $16,805. 1230 PERF, $7,840. 2110 Office Supplies, $10,000. 3230 Postage, $10,000. PCC RBC Fund 7304, 3340 Advertising, $65,000. 3510 Power, $2,000. 3610 Maintenance Agreements, $15,000. 4210 Buildings, $400,000. Taxpayers appearing at such meetings shall have a right to be heard thereon. The additional appropriations, as finally made, will be referred to the Indiana Department of Local Government Finance. The DLGF will make a written determination as to the sufficiency of funds to support the appropriations made within 15 days of receipt of a certified copy of the action taken, signed Vicki Urbanek, Auditor of Porter County, published July 14th in the Chesterton Tribune.
Okay, thank you, Madam Auditor. We're going to mix the agenda up just
Mike,
slightly.
can I want to ask the auditor a quick question, if I can.
Okay.
Vicki, I know that you've been working on the TIF neutralization report and study, and I know that in the past, our auditors have farmed that out on occasion. Sometimes that's caused us some delay, and there's been some confusion on the numbers. So I wanted to ask you real quick, how's that going? I know you're doing it in-house now, which
Yes, second
quite
year in a
an
row.
undertaking. So
Yes.
how's
It's
that
a
going?
very detailed study. We had a team of 5 people work on it, and it was completed today and submitted to the state.
Good.
And this is a requirement before we can certify the AVs, which is very important for budget time.
Well, that's a good point. So along that line, because I read or heard somewhere or ran into somebody that indicated to me that both Hebron and Valpo are looking at some TIFs. I think Valpo is throwing 300 parcels, is it,
Yes.
into a TIF?
Yes.
And Hebron's kind of picking and choosing and finding some TIF areas that they want to do. So I think we as a council need to understand what that kind of stuff does. And correct me if I'm wrong, Vicki, but we're losing hundreds of millions of dollars in AV off of TIFs, right? I think we're probably getting pretty close to 800 million. Is that correct?
As a result of the study today, it was, very close, $779 million.
Oh, I wasn't too
So
bad.
about 800 million, excuse me. One thing, there is one TIF area that has what's called pass-through, and so that's net of the pass-through.
So nearly $800 million of lost AV because of TIFs. Now,
AV.
here's the thing we have to understand, and I've said it for years, and I'm a fiscal conservative, so you guys can jump in if you want to be tax suspenders, but I have called that a backdoor tax for a long time, and some of you have been very disgruntled with me for saying such things, but we are losing future revenue, and we are seeing tax rates either not going down or being driven up because of TIFs. That is a fact. So if somebody says a TIF is tax neutral to people, when someone comes in and screams and hollers about their tax rate, someone might want to redirect them to TIFs, because those, and although our county portion of the tax rate has gone down for years on end, people are seeing increases in their taxes, and TIFs are part of that problem. And we can argue the projects they do and some of the stuff that comes out of TIFs. We're not going to get into that with the budgetarians, but we are, from the tax rate area, we are bleeding money through TIFs. That's it. So it costs the taxpayers, and it costs the taxpayers. So we got to keep an eye on that.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike. That's all I wanted to do.
Sarah?
I just wanted to ask, how are we losing money? When they TIF, they're going to capture...
Okay, so...
What is it, when they
I was hoping someone would ask me that question, too.
They're capturing the new development.
That's exactly right.
We're not losing anything. We're not gaining from the new development.
Oh, so what you're telling me is if somebody develops in an area, that the revenue that would have come to the county, that isn't, and that as a result of that money not coming to the county, your tax rate goes up, you're not losing money. Furthermore, and don't even begin to tell me that TIFs are being used the way they were supposed to be used when it was first enacted. We have to find these financially blighted, developmentally impossible to develop areas. We'll use TIF to do a shot in the arm, because that is not what's happening in this county. Not even a start. They are picking and choosing areas. They are picking and choosing areas that they know will develop. They've been eyeballing the hospital. They've been wanting to try to get a TIF at the hospital area, like salivating like Pavlovian dogs. Why? Because they know it's going to develop. It's low-hanging fruit. TIFs are low-hanging fruit. They're not using them for places like Route 6 corridor in South Haven, where you have a hard time interpolating development. They're grabbing areas that would develop otherwise, and nobody is going to convince me otherwise of that. That's what's happening. So we're losing revenue, and who's paying for that?
Okay, that's my point. That's my point. We're not gaining any revenue, but we haven't lost anything. When it's TIFed, it's the value of the land. We're getting the same thing that we got before.
All the future development, the growth factor, all of it is lost revenue. And someone's got to pay for that, and the someone is the taxpayers, because their tax rates are going up. So we hear people screaming and hollering about things like referendums for schools and this, that, and the other, when really, they ought to be looking at the TIFs, because the TIFs are having a monumentally higher impact on the tax rates than those two referendums that they
I know
voted.
some TIF districts, Councilman Witten,
Yes.
that supply the schools some extra revenue.
$800 million of lost AV. 800.
Okay, well, we're not sitting here
dollars.
So I just wanted to make a point.
I think we should, though. We should clear the air a little bit, because the impression that Mr. Witten is giving everybody, Councilman Witten, is
Yes.
that there's absolutely no tax revenue being generated by that property, which is a fallacy.
I didn't say that.
Well, you're saying we lost $800 million. Without the TIF, maybe no one would have invested in that property, And so, I'm not going to argue the point.
You don't have to, because I know the numbers.
It doesn't matter, Dan. 10 years of development there.
It doesn't matter.
No, because
$800 million of lost AV, and it doesn't matter?
Being on either end of that contract, you can't tell me whether the development was going to be there because of the TIF or without the TIF.
Okay.
We know we would have lost some of that investment without the TIF.
That's the beautiful lie.
I'm not
That's
arguing.
the beautiful lie that the TIF proponents say.
I'm not
Oh, my gosh, we never would have had this development. Porter County would have never had the growth but for all these TIFs. Come on, guys.
not arguing
Come on.
for or against. the
I
TIF.
understand,
I'm just saying
but that's the argument
The
that's
reality
always...
of it is, if you own farm property and it's tipped out, the farm is still paying the property tax that was initially paid on that property. Yes, does it hurt us in further development or in revenue? Possibly. But just like he said, there are occasions where a TIF works extremely well. And I would agree, South Haven would be an amazing place to have those happen. But ideally, interesting parties to come to some of these communities, they won't do it because we're in a bargaining war with other communities. Now, I agree, Porter County is an amazingly excellent place to produce something, come and invest in, but also there's an intriguing possibility that we lose those people without some kind of bonus. So,
Here's I'm going to give everybody let everybody know. There's developments going on in Porter County that aren't in TIF districts. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? People are coming in, and they're investing in this county, and they're bringing their businesses in, and they're building subdivisions, and they're not in TIF areas. They're not. So to say that Porter County is an area that needs a ridiculous amount of TIFs, it shocks the conscience amount of TIFs. It's absolute insanity.
I'd like to suggest that the question to the auditor, I think, is an appropriate one to talk about the AV, to debate TIFs and the benefits or disadvantages of TIFs throughout the county at this particular point. We can talk about it, we can argue it, but I don't think that's going to accomplish a whole lot tonight specifically. Jeremy, you were about...
I'm going to talk about, Mike, whenever I hear or think of something that might have a negative impact on the taxpayers, when I come to this meeting, I think I would be remiss in my duties not to address it.
And I appreciate
So,
that,
thank you.
and you made your point.
I certainly have, thank you.
Jeremy, do you have anything you want to say in addition to what's been talked about?
Specifically, the city of Portage that I represent out of 800, I'm just wondering do you have a chunk where this is all coming from, for the most part, who's tipping the largest amounts?
We can run a report that shows the different parcels, but in Portage, they only have one TIF area, and...
Is that the whole city?
No. They have both real and personal, and we're estimating about $273 million of AV. It's not tax revenue, it's assessed value.
You did just say $272 million.
Correct.
Okay.
273,281,313 is the total.
Are there other units in Porter County that are passing through to the schools? I know Burns Harbor passes their money through to the school. Is there other?
Right. What Burns Harbor does is a grant agreement with the schools, and we don't get involved with that. That's between the town and the schools. The pass-through is a TIF term where we do calculate some of the AV going back to the base, meaning the county, the city, the schools. And Valparaiso has an area in Washington Township where they pass through at different percentages. But that's the only one that's passed through, but there's the grant programs that are, something separate.
So, Madam Auditor, if you would forward that report, we would appreciate that for further review and discussion,
Sure.
detailing out what that $800 million is coming from.
Yeah, after the state gives its approval, and hopefully they'll give their approval. It is posted online.
And Vicki, if you would, I'd like to know our current TIF situation. I'd like to go back a few years. If you could go back and tell us what the change in the TIFs have been over the last few years.
Yes.
And if we ever get to the point, and I understand things like maximum levy and all that kind of business, it's almost nearly impossible to figure out lost revenue. But if we ever get an idea of the lost revenue, I know it's convoluted, and I try to do it. Let me know.
One question I'd like to address on that, on these TIF areas, box stores and that come in, do they get any further tax reduction because coming into a TIF area, or have we had any recent, okay, that's just...
Some businesses do get abatements and they're in TIFs. But that's up to the designating body.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. All right, very good. As we move into the agenda items, mentioning that we are going to shuffle the order just slightly. We're going to have the commissioners first, and then I'd like to take tourism, and then juvenile probation, and continue on like that. So if you have the commissioners first, that'd be great.
Sounds great.
Yes. You're very lively debating me, a little homesick.
Or just sick.
No, it's very good points. Very good points
Right.
made.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel. I'm here requesting a
I'd like to
change.
make a motion to approve that transfer, if we could, the $16,000 from
Second.
unemployment to disposal. Are you going to make a change to your request?
No, sir.
All right, my motion is to approve the transfer, the first transfer.
Second.
A motion on the floor and a second for the first transfer, $16,000 from unemployment to disposal. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion on the second transfer, but I've got some questions, so I'll make the motion for discussion.
Second.
Motion on the floor that is second to transfer $75,000 from salaries to contractual attorney. Any discussion?
Yes, so I see that it's $75,000, and I understand that we made a change to the legal department, and we moved some attorneys' fees out of specific budgets and put them under the commissioners to be run under the legal department. My question is, this number 75,000, unbudgeted assessor's attorney, are we talking about, is that a year-to-date thing, or are you guys anticipating that to be the year?
I honestly can't answer that, Dan. But I know it's a particular case that the assessor's office has been dealing with for the last few months that is driving this increase, this transfer.
So it's not Peterboa?
No.
Or is it Peterboa?
Oh, my goodness.
No, it isn't Peterborough.
Is it one of those big tax appeal jobs where there's
Yes.
litigation involved, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, those can be pricey. So, I guess my question, and maybe this would be more of a question for the assessor. He's not here, is he?
No.
It would be, what does he anticipate needing of the 75,000, and then will it be sufficient for, the year?
Well, speaking to him here recently about this particular issue, I'm being made to believe that it's coming to closure.
Okay.
So, it almost, at this point, it almost has to.
And I'm familiar with a couple of the cases that they've got, but I was thinking maybe this was Peterboa, but that didn't really make sense.
No, it's the case involving the Pines.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments?
Where's that, the 75,000 from salaries, that extra money in salaries, where's that coming from? That you're pulling it from there, that you don't need it?
Right.
I think, Jeremy, and I don't want to speak for Jim, but
But you are.
I'm going to. I think that what we did was we decided that we wanted to bring all of these attorney fee line items out of the non-statutory required ones, where they are statutorily entitled to an attorney, and we pull them under the commissioner's budget, increase that commissioner's county attorney budget, and they would be paid out of
I
that.
understand that with the salary, we're pulling 75, we're transferring 75,000 from salaries.
How much, Vicki, can you tell me how
Are you
much,
shortchanging?
when it was under the assessor,
No, we're not going to short.
when it was under the assessor, how much did we appropriate in
For
budget?
his lawyer.
Okay.
That's probably a good way to start, because I suspect it's the same kind of expenditure.
Okay, bear with us here.
Yep. Wow, look at that.
We have to go to the other system now.
And I believe that
So-
change was done last year during budget time.
Yeah, we wanted to create a quasi-legal department,
Right.
because we were asking a lot of questions about attorney's fees, which are near and dear to my heart.
Where is it? Oh, there. 09.
He didn't tell me.
Oh, yeah, 09. 09.
I think that's the case. I think they're paying multiple attorneys. I think
They are.
I think
They are.
there's multiple attorneys that would
That's
be
more
involved
than
in that.
one.
Yeah. Well, there's-
Passed.
Either that or I'm becoming an attorney.
No, you don't want to do that. It doesn't, it looks good on paper, but no.
Okay, so they budgeted and they spent $12,000 in the general fund in the assessor's budget for the contractual attorney. And let's look at the reassessment budget. I'm not sure if there was anything in the reassessment budget.
Yeah, and did we do, is that including the appropriations we may have done throughout the year?
Yes, that should have been the,
I understand what they did.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Nope, they didn't have.
I don't think so, no.
Jeremy, did you get your question answered?
No.
No, I mean, I understand what they did with what we did.
It's a much bigger number than we would
With the-
have allocated to it.
Yeah, but I'm
But
just
they're getting
wondering.
$75,000
We're moving
out of-
75,000 out of salary.
Out of
Are
salary.
we gonna short?
Was that from unfilled positions perhaps, Jim, or?
But you can't go on.
Mike, I really don't have an answer for you. I don't want to say, because I don't know first.
Well, here's a question.
It's a
What's
transfer.
in 3951 contractual attorney line now? What's in that?
In the commissioner,
What's left in that
Where's,
line item?
hold on, let's,
$1,100.
yeah, the remaining balance is
It's 11.
just over $1,000.
Ooh.
And how much did we budget?
Budgeted $106,822.
Okay, Jeremy, that was a very good question you asked.
It's not the question I asked, but.
Yeah, but I'm going back to your question, because that money's coming from somewhere, and I was assuming that we had it locked up in our whole legal,
Right.
There's none there.
No, we're pulling it from
Department.
salaries, but.
yeah.
Yeah.
How much is in the salaries line item?
$392,000.
What we start with, it's not plenty.
752.
Yeah.
752,
Are we
272.
halfway?
Started with
Yeah.
752.
Why don't we look at percentage?
Yeah,
I guess it can cover it, but it'll be tight.
That's where it's being pulled from.
Right.
Right.
What was our total expenses and salaries last year?
Harold, do you have any, did you have any insight on this, do you know?
The only thing I can say is I did talk to Scott McClure last week, and he had mentioned, and he would be in a better position to answer this more intelligently than me, that the fees have increased not only because of what Commissioner Biggs has mentioned with the pending lawsuits, but they're also paying for ordinance violations out of that, and I know John Buscemi is handling some of those cases in Pine Township, and I think he had mentioned Ben Fryman is getting paid out of that account as well, and Katrina for Spence for the ordinance violation. So I know it's more than just one attorney, there's several things that are coming
Right.
out.
But why would the ordinance violations would be under the assessor?
Well, and that's why I say it would be,
Yeah.
it would be a better question.
Well, Harold, my understanding is, my understanding had nothing to do with the ordinances. Let me back that up. It's how we currently tax, our nursing homes and these hybrids that have been created out of the nursing homes where they go into residential living that are associated to the nursing homes. And there needs to be clarification there. Something similar to this, I believe, happened in Carmel. And
Have we been paying, I mean, this line item has gone miraculously down, Vicki? Vicki?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We've gone from 106,000 down to 1,000. Have they been paying some of this stuff, the assessor's attorneys out of that line item already? Is that what's happening here? So 75,000 is, how much are we paying here?
We can look at all the claims.
I mean, is anybody else, that just seems like a lot of shortfall.
We tabled it.
Through July, yeah.
I don't think we can table it.
It's down to $1,000.
yeah, I would ask that the board.
Yeah, we need to consider.
But I want to make clear that when I spoke to Assessor Snyder, I told him that conclusion had to come to this very quickly, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense of us to throw, tens of thousands of dollars at this continually with no end in sight.
Well, my other question, Jim, would be, without this, you guys have spent, we're sitting here in July, almost all of your county attorney budgeted money, right? Vicki, is there another line item that we pay the county attorney out of?
No.
So, if this is truly what it says it is,
Yes.
to payment of unbudgeted assessor's attorney, that's not Scott, is it?
Well,
No.
no.
So how do we pay Scott?
You can
It's got to
see,
be paid out of salaries.
Is
you
Scott
can
been
see,
paid out?
you can see the claims, and Scott is the Raymond Elwood, but
Yeah.
you could see Burke, Costanza, and Carberry,
Right.
another Burke, Costanza, and Carberry. And then there's another one, 1,725,
Yeah, so Scott's been getting paid out of this
yes.
line item, which is now down to 1,000. So when we say we can't table this, it's not that we can't table it because there's not enough money to pay Scott. If this is true, if this is just to pay an unbudgeted assessor's attorney, that has nothing to do with the fact that there's only $1,000 in that account to pay Scott. We can table this, by the way, but I'm just wondering what the commissioners are thinking with respect to, and maybe this is a question for Scott, what's this year going to look like for the legal department? Because if that's down to 1,000 and this is going out to some other attorney, we're woefully deep in that account. We started at 106, we're almost done, it's July.
Well, a review of the salaries budget, that appears still to be healthy.
Yeah, but I don't think you've been paying them out of that.
Well, the salary budget is, not really, we're about halfway through, and we've gone through half of it, so.
Right, we're halfway through, we've gone through half of it.
Yeah, but that brings us to the point that,
Transferring 75,000 out of it right now.
and you're going to have to hit it for the rest of your county attorney year.
Yeah, but our understanding is that this issue with the assessor's office is coming to a conclusion.
What is it? Is it an appeal? What appeal is it?
It's an appeal.
Of what?
It's, that they don't...
Pines Village,
Yes,
That's Pines Village?
Yes.
That's a big appeal?
yes.
yes,
Yeah, and it was a big one. It's a big one.
a
It's,
very big one.
I've got a lot of questions about this, by the way.
Are we ready to lose?
I do. I just do.
Well, I mean,
Whatever you...
it's a transfer, it's not additional, I mean, they're just moving money to cover costs right now, I mean.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Hopefully this is coming to a head here.
I would ask, you know what, Jim, I'll vote for it because we got to get this moving along, but I would ask that maybe at our next meeting, if you could, have Scott or somebody kind of give us an overall picture of what the projected expenditure for the legal department is going to be from now to the end of the year, and the proposed revenue to fund that.
That's reasonable.
And that we haven't
Given the-
shortchanged your salaries,
Huh?
and that we haven't shortchanged your salaries.
By
Right.
transferring the money.
Right.
So in advance of our next meeting, Scott will be able to provide kind of
Yes,
a summary of
I'll make sure that they...
how this came about and where we're heading going.
Got to pay your lawyer.
Oh,
They're liable to sue you.
yeah. But I'll make sure we give a full accounting as to where we're going
We have
with
a
that
motion on the
moving
floor.
forward.
Yes, you have a motion and a second. Can we call the question?
Any additional questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next.
I will make a motion to approve $20,000 from office equipment over 100 to contractual services, contractual line items to please.
You know how to read it all.
Yeah, whatever.
Motion on the floor and second.
Second.
There's 2 seconds.
Couple seconds.
That's a 4. That's a motion and a 4. That's
For
2 seconds.
$20,000 office equipment to $39.50 contractual services. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Getting some money out of the cable franchise fund, eh? So I would make the motion to approve the $213,526.39 to 4320 roads and taxiways. Federal reimbursements for the 100 South project.
Second.
Motion on the floor that has a second to, for an additional $213,526.39 to roads and taxiways of the Cable Franchise Fund. Any discussion?
Yes, how about that? So that 100 South project, I have a couple questions. One is, I know that they just did between 500 West and 600 West on 100 South. Is there another phase that's going to go further west from 600 West or further east from 500 West, do you know?
I don't think the commissioners have been,
That's not been,
no.
okay. And then, I know that there, this is kind of along that line, there were a group of interns out over the summer looking at all the culverts, the ditches, with respect to drainage, and I think that maybe, is any of that changes that you guys are anticipating need to be made, renovations to culverts, widening of ditches, is that going to have any impact on the road projects that we've done?
Have already done? It shouldn't, with the roads that are already have been done, because those culverts, if damaged or need to be repaired, they are fixed at that point, before the paving actually commences. But Bob Thompson or Michael Novotny can speak in more detail about it, but the summer interns have been just a wonderful boon to us. I mean, they've identified every single culvert and what needs to be repaired, what's junk, throughout the entire
And I think
county,
I talked
place
to-
it all on a map.
I think I talked to Mike Novotny, I did talk to Mike Novotny, I don't remember exactly how many culverts that were identified as needing repair.
You remember what that number was right offhand?
Yeah.
A lot of culverts.
Well, yeah, but the the positive part about that is that they've been targeted to be fixed, which is going to play, it's going to have a first-hand effect on fixing some of the drainage problems that we've had on some of these roads.
Okay, great, thanks, Jim.
Any additional questions or comments? Not, roll call, please.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bozick?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
And Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you.
On the E911 Form 144, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve this, but I'm going to have a couple questions as well.
Second.
Motion on the floor that has a second for the E91 Surcharge Fund 1222, Form 144. Open it up for discussion.
So tell me, Jim, I know, I talked to Commissioner Good, and I've talked to Commissioner Blaney a little bit about this, but I know that there's been discussion about a restructuring of the departments, and maybe EMA as well, or actually EMA as well. Can you give us kind of a general idea of how that's going to look when it's done?
Well, the commissioners at the beginning of the year have done a deep dive into 911 operations, and to be honest with you all, the reason for that is because the numerous complaints that we're receiving over the last few months in regard to that operation. And what we found, to be quite honest with you, is in some cases was startling. And we felt that a total reorganization, was in order. As you might imagine, communication, when you're talking about 911 or emergency management is paramount. And that's what was lacking in at least the E911 office. So what we've done is we've gone out and we brought in, as the letter stated that we had sent to you all, the P4 Global, which is formerly known as REM, to help us with a vetting process of bringing in a new director. It was a national search. They were very heavily interviewed and tested, and as luck would have it, the strongest candidate that come out of that group was in our own backyard, which was Valparaiso Police Chief Mike Brickner, who was an applicant. The commissioners have offered him a position, barring the council approves his salary, the salary request. during this process, we also asked P4 Global to give us an idea of what we should be paying a director, because during this process, we kept being told by outside sources, your current salary isn't enough. It isn't enough. You're not going to draw the kind of talent you need to draw with the skill sets needed to do that job the way you expect it to be done, paying a salary of that type. So they came back and told us that the range for a multiple jurisdictional 911 dispatching department, which is what we have here in Indiana due to the consolidations, is between $115,000 and $148,000. So, we gave it some thought, and we sat down with Chief Brickner and told him what we thought we could afford to pay, and we told him, here's the benefits package as well, and we've agreed on a $90,000 salary.
Now, you're going to, and I could be wrong, so are you going to be merging 911 with EMA?
Yes, and that's another reason for the increase in the salary.
Right.
Is currently you have the 911 operations, and with all the dispatchers, the 911 director oversees all those dispatchers, responsible for all those dispatchers, that large budget. And then you have EMA, and believe it or not, the EMA director makes more than the 911 director, and I can't think of any other county in this state where that's happened.
Will we still have an EMA director?
Yes, you will have we will have an EMA director, but they will not be making what they're currently making. They will answer to the 911 director. That position's title will in all likelihood change to probably the Porter County Emergency Communications and Public Safety Director.
Commissioner Biggs, when you guys did this national search, was there a salary attached to that originally when you did the search?
No, we didn't, no.
So you just send out, with no salary range attached to that?
Berlin, Germany, please come to Porter County.
Please come to Porter County and,
No, that's not unusual at all. That's not unusual at all.
How many people responded? How many?
We had originally had a total of 13.
Lucky number.
We had then, as Jeff knows, Jeff was part of the selection committee. We sat down and vetted half of those out that we felt were truly qualified to at least some extent, or to most of our definitions of being qualified. And from that ended up, I think, being 6. Two took themselves out of the, we took 2 out of that eventually, and then 2 took themselves out of the running for that, from that point. We ended up with 3. They were tested again. Mike, the testing this time, the top 2 was very close, but Chief Brickner did score the highest.
Okay.
And one of the applicants, who we did like, but they would not move over here.
That's important.
Well, we can't move.
Kind of want to have a guy here.
No, we made that clear that we wanted them invested here.
If it's a 911 problem, you don't want a guy 2.5 hours.
No, you don't want to do it from Illinois.
Yeah.
No, that's not going to work.
Good enough. Jeff, you sat in on the interviews, did you?
Yeah, a few of them.
And you're comfortable with this request?
Well, I did some research on my own. I think Jeremy had done that earlier. I think I remember him looking at some figures, and I think the question was fair that we didn't publish the salary, because I don't know if we even knew what we could offer at that time. I think that was one of the big questions. We really hadn't talked about a salary ahead of time. And so, comparatively, it was difficult to, I think, really get a full picture of what that was going to look like without a salary.
Sure.
I think they did their homework when they came back with the salary, because it's still pretty conservative, I think, comparatively to what we looked at nationally, so.
Yeah.
And the commissioners, and the selection committee, but primarily commissioners who developed the job description or the advertisement for the position, we don't have the statutory authority, as you know, to set and say, look, we got this new position, here's what the salary's going to be, without first the fiscal body of county government approving the salary. We just could not do that.
I'm just wondering if time would have permitted, perhaps the thought would have been to create a job description, come to us, ask us for a salary range, and then you could have taken that to your interview.
Well, hindsight, you know what they say about hindsight? Yeah, I mean, it probably, it would have definitely slowed down the process. And that is probably another consideration that we were taking at the time, because we did understand something had to be done here very quickly,
right,
but not carelessly.
Yeah, and I'd made that suggestion, and I think that the time constraints, there was a sense of urgency there, so I get it.
Question that I have, this is the salary budget. Your director that you're appointing is $90,000, and the closest person to him. I just wonder how all these people working such a variance of salary for the low.
It's good to be the king.
Well,
are you going to be coming?
Well, so yes, I think
time
that
asking for $20,000 more for the.
Assuming that Mr. Brickner is indeed, assuming that you approve the salary and we move forward with Mr. Brickner, he will. He has already contacted. Oh, by the way, he's already contacted CJ. They're meeting this week to talk about the budget that's going to be submitted for 2018, and I'm sure some of that stuff will change.
That was my concern. I don't think that there's a.
Jay makes a good point. He's going to make twice as much as his assistant.
Yeah, and
It might be twice as good, might be worth it.
Well.
You're my assistant here, and you make just as much as me. See how that works out.
That's not true.
This new director is going to have, how many people under him? He's going to have the EMA director or assistant? Besides.
The EMA will be a deputy out of that office.
Jim, there's going to be some restructuring, and there'll probably be some movement on salaries. Is that something that we've anticipated? Because I think is your vision to allow him enough latitude to do that? Do we have, what kind of?
Well, being the first, being his first budget, the commissioners very strongly want to sit down with Mike and help him work that. But he certainly, we're going to listen to what he has to say, because he's this is not, he is coming from city government, and he understands budget matters and how to put together a budget. That's one of the reasons he was selected. But we have not heard in finite detail as to what plans he has, especially after talking to CJ, who we've already received his resignation, which he'll be leaving in roughly 19 days from today. So I'm sure some of it'll change, and I wouldn't assume that it's necessarily going to go up.
But we can expect to see that at budget time, right?
Yes,
That'll be
sir.
part of your proposed budget?
Yes, Dan. Yes.
Commissioner Biggs, and EJ is going to be the training coordinator now, correct?
No, this letter was actually sent out before
It's actually CJ.
before we were notified by CJ that he is in fact leaving.
EJ must be CJ's
That's a
cousin.
railroad.
So, training coordinator is currently not staffed?
No, he wasn't doing the training coordinator to begin with.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't the training coordinator. And to answer your question, training coordinator was not staffed.
So it's going to be staffed now? Is that what's going up?
Yes, absolutely. We're running right now, to my understanding, 8 dispatchers short.
Come on, Justin, keep this meeting.
And that the funds were there to fill these positions for over a year.
Wow. Call the question.
Motion on the floor for question. All those in favor of the question?
No, you just call a roll call, man.
Yeah.
You got the gavel, baby.
Roll call on the question, please.
Councilmember Conowitz.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Larson. Councilmember Bozak.
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas.
I don't know, I think I might want to hear a little more from Larson. That wasn't a very enthusiastic yes, that he was sitting on the committee. Yes.
Councilmember Jessen.
Most definitely.
Okay, and Councilmember Witten,
Yes.
7-0.
Okay, so back to the vote.
That was the vote.
I thought that was a vote to the question.
Now, to call the question is just you call the question. Sorry.
My
I mean, we
apologies.
can have another vote if you really want.
No, I don't.
Okay.
So everyone's satisfied, that's good.
President Jessup, can I ask one question?
Sure.
In regards to the animal shelter, what are you guys doing with that? What's the plan for the old animal shelter?
We're gonna tear it down, move it off property.
How soon does that?
It'll be done this month,
Okay.
yeah.
And now that we've approved the money we're getting the design work started up front? And that's ready to?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Are we getting the design work done up front of this building now?
Yes, the RFP went out to get pricing, so we can bring back to you, and, yeah, that's well in motion.
I won't recognize the place, but the crime scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point that I'm almost, I'm that close to just taking the barricades out of there and sitting out there in a lawn chair and making sure nobody falls, because it looks so...
I would like to see that.
Papa would probably
That's what
prefer
you
that.
need, if you did it.
Yeah, let's just get it fixed.
Yeah, and that is high priority. Actually, it's high priority number one, right?
Any other questions for the commissioner?
Well, no, I mean, if you're up here and we want to talk about that, I mean, where are we at with the appraisal, where are we at with that work? I mean,
With what?
with the building appraisal? I mean,
He's about the old
We're waiting for that to come back. It should be back in the next week or so. As soon as it's back, we're going to be in front of you.
in front of us
Yes.
Yeah.
for purchase the building, bond everything?
Well, to discuss the cost, the total cost of purchasing it, and how, if we are going to move forward in doing that.
Jim, can you, just out of, well, I guess since it's brought up, what's the timeline on that? Because I think we really need to be making some decisions, at least going into our budget session, because we're going to have to decide which direction we're going in.
Has a lot to do with, us.
Well, we certainly hope it will all be, we'll have all the information that we need to decide whether or not we're going to move forward on this by budget, by conclusion of budget.
Just that building, or?
No,
I mean,
all of it.
All of it.
Yes.
Yeah, we really do.
We really need to.
Well, with that being said, too, and the whole 911 thing, where are we at with that whole 800 megahertz system?
Well, it's not complete. They're still, putting up, constructing the tower. A completion date of October. It looks
All the
like.
cost in place?
Yeah, no, not entirely, because we have not determined as a county what we're able to contribute toward the other departments in the way of financial assistance. And that has to be made with the council as well as the commissioners.
What are we looking at? Price tag? I mean, again, I think this has something, we're moving into budget session rapidly. I mean,
Well,
it's going to
you're-
happen, we've got to start discussing all of it.
I think it's fair to say you're talking $2 or $3 million worth of radios.
And that's what,
That's all of the radios. But it is, I think that I can state with pretty much certainty that the commissioners do not believe that county government should be the bank that finances all those radios.
Well, no, like Dan said,
Absolutely.
they're tipping everywhere and keeping their money away from us.
Exactly.
Well, and some of the departments have already purchased under grant funding.
So we're not
Right.
reimbursing.
Yeah,
That's all
departments,
this morning.
some departments, and when I say departments, primarily fire departments, they've done their homework, and they've prepared, and they've been, they've gone out and sought out grants, and they've been here recently given notice that they're going to receive grant money, while other departments have done little to nothing, and just waiting for somebody to save them.
Well, that wouldn't be fair then, would it? People who've done their job,
Well,
we're not going to pay, I mean,
we're talking about emergency communications. Fair's got nothing to do with it. It's what we have to do.
no, that's not what I mean. I mean, if
Some
they've
have
gotten a
gotten
grant
grants.
for it, and they've put money out from one of their budgets, but another department hasn't, are we going to pay for that entire department and not refund the department that did put money out?
Well, I think that's why the commissioners, we went out and we believe that we've created a reasonable solution as to how the funding should be approached.
Can you give us an idea what that is?
Well, it's population primarily, and
So back to Jeremy's question, that's actually a good question. So if there are municipalities that have gone through the grant process, have taken the initiative and have gotten some funding, and then there may be, and I don't know yes or no, if there are some that haven't, but if there are departments that have taken no action to do that, doesn't fairness come into play then?
well, I mean, at the end of the day, Dan, no, and the reason is we cannot turn this system on and afford to have a township or two not on board. We can't turn it on. I understand it. Examples of the city of Portage that have already, on their own,
Right.
went out and purchased the radios.
Right.
But that's a very good question, I think, and I think that has to be addressed, but it cannot prohibit us from moving forward and getting on board with this as soon as possible.
I don't think that's what we're asking at all. It's if we're going to spend the money, or are they going to get refunded of some sort to be equal and fair on, is everybody getting?
I don't think, Jim, at this point, are you prepared to answer that?
No, I really can't.
Well, it needs to be all included in the next month or two, and I think you realize that. The radios, the buildings, the bond, as we move in, I mean, we've got some serious discussions we've got to have over the next month or two.
Well,
I won't vote on anything that's thrown in my lap and I'm told to vote on it.
But Jeremy, keep this in mind when it comes to the largest municipalities. The county government, beginning in 2007, took on the consolidation of 911 without compensation. And the largest users of that system are, in fact, the cities. So, if you're Morgan Township and you're saying, hey, buy my radios, or you're Liberty Township, please buy my radios, and I said, I can't because Portage bought theirs and we have no way to compensate them at this point. I mean, I think they could come back and make an argument, well, they've been compensated.
Yeah, but did Morgan Township have a 911 dispatch center?
No, they
So
didn't.
they wouldn't
Well, that's
have
my
that-
point.
Yeah, they wouldn't have that argument then.
No, I think they would have an argument.
Is there communication with the current chiefs and telling them about these grants and such?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
My impression too, Jim, is that at our August meeting, isn't that the hopeful date where the commissioners will be prepared to talk more
Yes.
specifically about
Yes.
the bond and the appraisals and
Yes.
the radios and
Right.
all of that?
When's our first budget session?
It has not been determined yet.
Probably September, right?
Yeah, probably September. Hey, Jim, now, away from that question, do you have a starting date or an estimated starting date? Because if we enact that salary now, CJ would actually be eligible for that.
Yes, August 21st.
Very good. Thank you.
Any additional questions for the commissioner?
Not that I can think of right now. Are you going to stick around for a little bit?
You have my cell phone number, Jim. Thank you.
See you later, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Next on the agenda is tourism, please.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You thought it was going to be quick.
Sorry to inconvenience you, man.
Hey, Dan, anything for you, brother. It was a pleasure watching Mr. Biggs.
Oh, you have a presentation, huh?
I do, sorry. That's coming in second, because I'm going to skip that.
Well, I was going to present because it kind of gels everything that we're doing. So first of all, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. And I do have a special guest, Superintendent Paul Labovitz. He's the superintendent of the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore, and he's impacted by some of our requests for tonight. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly. I can speak fast. First of all, tourism is a huge economic impact for Porter County. It imports new cash of $413 million annually. There's 5.7 million visitors that come to our destination annually. And of those 5.7 million visitors, 3 million visitors are visiting the Indiana Dunes National Park and State Park each year. To give you the understanding of how significant that is, 80% of those visitors are from outside of Northwest Indiana, 60% are from outside the state of Indiana, and the Indiana Dunes are the #1 attraction in the state of Indiana in terms of visitation. So there's no other attraction in this state that's bringing the visitation that we have at Indiana Dunes. Our mission at Indiana Dunes Visitor Center is really simple, to bring visitors and extend their stay. We are the cheerleaders for this county. We're the agency that's going outside of Porter County and really letting people know what we have in Porter County when you're talking about quality of place and quality of life. And so our biggest thing is branding and marketing. 99% of our advertising is digital, and the reason we're doing digital advertising is because it's so easy to track and see the success of it. I'm going to show you one of our 30-second ads that we are doing online.
Videos of a lot of people in better shape than us.
They didn't ask us to do it.
No.
That place is speak for yourself.
Okay, I'll give you that one, too.
One of our biggest markets is Chicago, and we're competing against the Michigans, the state of Michigan that has $30 million. We're competing against the Wisconsins and the Illinois. So we're competing in that marketplace to get those visitors to our area to spend their money. So when we do those ads, we know that those ads are not going to get the visitors to the destination, but what we're hoping they're going to do is go to our website. Last year, we had over 300,000 visitors to our website. They looked at 1.6 million pages on our site. And just to give you an idea, there were 66,000 people that just went to the Indiana Dunes Beaches page. So that gives you an idea of where that traffic is coming from. In addition to that, you know that we produce brochures. This is really critical in helping people decide if they're going to come here and or they're going to choose our competitors. And it also helps them decide what they're going to do, how long they're going to stay, and how much money they're going to spend in our communities. You have two of the key pieces that we produce. We have 3 demographics that we're going after. We're going after the baby boomers, Generation X, and the millennials. And all 3 generations consume information differently, so you do have to have a digital platform as well as the printed materials. All of our guides, even though they're printed, we also have the digital guides. And so if you go and see our activities guide online, you can actually interact with it. You can go directly to the businesses that are hyperlinked in there, as well as look at the videos that we produce for different businesses. So one of the key marketing tools that we have, and is a great entry point and a great communicator how great Porter County is the Indiana Dunes Visitor Center. For those of you, you know that the Visitor Center is owned by the Porter County government. We own and operate it on your behalf, and the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore leases space from us. Their rangers and our staff are working side by side. For the first 8 years the Visitor Center was opened, we averaged 75,000 visitors a year. Last year, we broke the record, and we had 101,000 visitors through our doors. I would encourage any of you to come out on a weekend to the Visitor Center in the summer and just see the number of visitors that are walking through that door on a weekend, on an average summer weekend. We have visitors from 57 countries, and Germany is the #1 international company that has come, or country that's coming through our doors. The reason I'm talking about the Visitor Center is we are embarking on a redevelopment and a redesign of the Visitor Center. I will tell you that people come to the Visitor Center, we get high marks for the customer service and the facilities, but we do think we can take the Visitor Center to another level and make it much more experiential and make it an attraction in and of itself. And so I'm going to show you what the Visitor Center looks like currently, and then I'm going to show you the concept plans for the redesign. So if you have gone into the Visitor Center, I'm not sure how many of you have been in there, but this is what you would see when you first arrive. We have a lot of brochure racks. We have an information desk that is blocked by the decorative column that you see there on the left. This is the entry point to the exhibit room for the National Park and to the theater. This is the bookstore you see in the back, and the bookstore is operated by Eastern National on behalf of the National Lakeshore. Now, this is the new redesign, and so when you enter the building, you will see that the desk is in front of the column. And the main room is going to be really displaying the Indiana Dunes. It will have much more interactive displays and much more three-dimensional, so it will be a lot more hands-on. And then the bookstore has been moved over to the left, and you'll see it there. On the flip side, where the bookstore is currently, we're going to have huge maps. We're going to have a relief map, which is a critical component for our national parks, and it'll be much more hands-on and interactive. This is currently the exhibit room. When we built this 10 years ago, the National Park was trying to secure federal dollars for this room. They were not successful, and so the displays that you're actually seeing in here are just kind of been a hodgepodge of displays that they've gathered from different locations. So what we want to do with that room is we're going to actually flip it, and this is going to be the community room. Our responsibility is to get people here to enjoy the destination. The Dunes is going to drive them here, but we've got to get them to shake off the sand south of the Dunes, and we've got to get them into our communities. When you get them into our communities, that's where you're going to see the spending that's going to take place in that economic impact. So this room will feature the communities and make sure we can drive those visitors into the communities. And again, it would be very high interactive. We'd have a lot of video components that would be a part of that. And then the last room is our theater. We have 102 seats in the theater that are fixed. This is probably the most underutilized room in the visitor center. And so what we're proposing is that we want to make that much more functional, and so we would actually use it as an exhibit room as well as a theater, but the chairs would not be fixed so that we could have a little bit more flexibility in what we hosted in that room. So the total project cost is $1.6 million. Majority of that will be on exhibitry, only 20% will be on physically changing the structure of the building itself, and that would include both exterior and interior. So tonight before you, you will see that there is an additional request for $400,000, and what we're doing is the National Park may have some funding that they may be able to put towards this project, but it is a priority. The redesign of the visitor center is the #1 priority for the National Lakeshore. And so we are trying to figure out how we're going to come up with the $1.6 million. And so Paul and I are talking about fundraising and sponsorships and so forth. And if we do get those monies, it will go through our agency because it is our building, so we will be overseeing that, and so everything would run through our budget. So just to get us started on that effort, we want to increase the line item to $400,000 so that we have a mechanism for any money that we do raise, that we can bring that in, and then it would go towards this project. We do have some low-hanging fruit that we've already said that we could start construction on, even if we didn't have the full funding, and that's why you're seeing the $400,000 request today, because there are some things like the relief map, the dune maker, and redoing the front desk. Those all can take place as we get the piecemeal the money together. And then the other requests are for our advertising, which we talked about, our activities guide. One of the things we do with marketing is we're always out of 2 different budgets. So right now, 2017 is over for us, and we are working on 2018. So a lot of our projects actually go between 2 different years, and so that's why we're asking for the increase in advertising, because we had a couple of projects that we thought we were paying out of 2016 that ended up being moved to 2017. We're having, our NIPSCO bill has been increasing, and so we are not going to, we're going to go in the red in that line item, so we're increasing that to $2,000. And then our cleaning bill has literally doubled for the visitor center, and so in order to accommodate that, we have to increase the maintenance agreements by $15,000.
Vicki, can you tell me what's in their budget right now? I know they had a surplus, so I'm just wondering.
I can't tell you that. We don't handle their accounting, so we don't see their fund balance. It doesn't go through the county. They maintain their own records. You do approve their budget, though, and appropriation.
Well, can you answer that for us?
Has that been going on forever?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the, how much did we approve for their budget? I know you guys had a carryover surplus. What is it, like 600,000, or what was it?
So in our best practices, we should have at least, you're supposed to have a minimum of 6 months to 1 year of your budget in crisis stability, meaning that's non-touchable.
What's the number?
So 500,000 for that. We have 100,000 for capital improvements for the big term things, and then we also have $100,000 that we've set aside for the visitor center, and then we have $100,000 for operational stability.
And so how much do you collect a year off the innkeeper's tax?
We're about 1.25 million.
So you have about 800,000?
800,000 is in reserves, but it's all spoken for in terms of the reserves.
So this $400,000, you're not anticipating that tapping into the reserves?
No, none of this is going to tap into our reserves. We consider those untouchable because they're all earmarked.
Yeah, that was my question.
Lorelei, you mentioned that the National Park Service either may have money or will have money, or what's the anticipated?
And that's what we're working on with National Park right now, is if there's any way that they have any money to put towards some of these expenses, but they would contract with us to actually do the work.
It's the national government. You can trust them.
So
the national government, you don't know.
So what you showed us here tonight is what's the project that you're talking about?
That's the total project in its totality.
Okay.
But any funds that we get at this point, our budget can't, we have no place to put it in.
We have no
put out.
line item.
We have no line item.
Right on.
So if we get no money, you're not going to see $400,000 spent. It's just as a mechanism to allow us to receive funds and start any projects.
Now, Laurel, I also had a question regarding the janitorial services.
That's contracted through.
Contract doubled from one year to the
It
next?
did. It's contracted through
Opportunity
Enterprise, and they do a really good job, and they just said we can't continue to do it at this price. And
Take some bids and try.
we
did.
did, and that price is even doubled is a good price.
How long have they been doing your janitorial?
I would say they've had it for about 9 years, and I think what happened is they started to realize that it's a big facility, plus you got to remember, we've increased the visitation, and so the amount of wear and tear and so forth. So when we did the RFQs, we got 3 bids. They were slightly over the second, they were not the lowest, but they were slightly over the second lowest, and because of the service that they provided, we felt that we should stay with them. But what we realized is that they probably weren't getting paid the amount that they wanted to get paid.
And when you're paying Opportunity Enterprises, I mean, the fact of the matter is, their mission and the results of their mission statement.
Plus, they hadn't increased it, so I think they
They're amazing.
got to a point where they realized they've done this for 9 years, and they hadn't really increased it. So we understood it. It still caught us off guard, because we didn't know that was going to happen until March of this year. Yes, yeah.
Has the frequency of the maintenance been increased, or are they still on the same schedule?
Everything increases in terms of when you increase that amount of visitation. So when we average 75,000 visitors for the first 8 years. So you're talking toilet paper, you're talking the garbage disposal, everything has to increase because of that. So it's a good problem to have, but it truly is an increase.
Well, that's more understandable, I just think people.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve these additionals.
I second.
Is that all 4?
Yeah.
For both?
Yeah.
Motion on the floor that has a second for the 4 additionals presented by the tourism. Any questions? If not, we'll have roll call on, and this is for all 4 requests.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bozick?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
And Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
7-0.
See you all in September.
Adios.
Nice job, Laura.
Thanks.
Aren't you late for a meeting?
We'd like to take just
Oh,
a
that's
quick 5-minute break for restroom break and for technical services, something or other.
That sounds like a great idea.
I'm not sure.
Recording.
Seems like this is running very good. Okay, I believe it.
Indiana Dunes Lake.
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good.
Upper end of Trail Creek. How's the walkway and bike traffic increase? Have you guys noticed it?
Yes.
My son car.
No. Okay. Oh, okay. This current year or based on our study, which is
I'll give you the card. So,
hold on, let me,
Yeah, so I love it. I moved here from Minnesota.
that's the last time I talked about doing a parking house set, and I think we should say that saves about $20,000.
Yeah, I work with,
Because this isn't just the only thing that our staff has to do, but it does take up a big chunk. Okay, so the number I gave you, Portage.
What it is?
yeah, I could gradually show you this.
$370
Oh, yeah, you know,
million dollars.
acceptable.
It was,
So this is the total number,
I had a daughter here last week.
273.
I didn't wear it, but I tell people six.
And I had to go back to work this week, so I
Pardon?
could rest,
Yeah, the big bug eyes.
shopping,
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
shopping stage,
We give approval to
Yeah, that was over the
the
4th of
state
July.
relatively
Navy
quickly.
Pier.
And believe it or not, we're still
It's a 2-acre pond, it's not like
Right
it's,
now.
but it's a healthy pond.
Actually,
It has flowing water through it, so it's,
You know what, my wife is so good at shifting those meetings, and
Yes.
it's, I cook almost every day.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a shooting range.
Well, I had no choice. I had to sit like this over there.
Right.
I just equated it to a,
It's my
cartoon
venting.
James
Talk
Yeah.
outdoor recreation.
And what it just shows.
No, good to see you, good to see you, gentlemen, actually, great to meet you. Yeah, it's great to see
I
you,
know, I
Facebook, and learn more about what's going on.
Goes
And I'm
to
like, more
the
power to
base,
you, honey.
which
I-
is shared by
I-
Paul.
Oh, I can't.
Oh, that's very nice of you. We're actually going to talk with,
And then,
Newman.
yeah, applause what told us the value of
Some sort.
how
to get people out for a weekend.
I wanted to pause you tonight, because what's
And then it comes up with the rebate. And the new.
And Jen,
Okay.
Even better, still Mike.
Oh, cool.
Oh, Karen. I began more talking about this, arguable.
So I will tell you, in Minnesota, we have programs that made their own fishing tackle. And,
I know, it's a whip of going.
$4,000 paid.
My blood pressure was getting high, we're having, technical recordings.
Well, we teach them how to fish. We spend all winter making gear, and then we take them fishing. So, can't go wrong fishing. Great to see you. Yeah, enjoy it.
You guys are gonna see that up. Don't need you.
All right, dude.
All right, well, thanks.
Adios.
Thank you.
Magical tip thing. It's important, but.
I try to throw some insightful numbers. I try to throw some insightful numbers out there.
It hurts.
I get convinced one way, and then I talk to somebody on the other side, and I was like, oh, I can wait.
No, easy.
I'm the ride, and then watching the, wait, no, it's right, you know what I mean?
It's funny because it's one of those issues that you're right.
it's very polarizing.
Yeah,
Well, if you really sit down with one person, they can kind of, it is like a trial.
Yeah, it kind of is. I know how it is.
Your prosecutor's going on, he's guilty.
Yep.
Yeah, the other guy's like, oh, he's in it.
Yep.
The reality of what's happening is pretty great.
Yeah, but the tip, cities and towns get themselves into trouble where they have no money.
Yeah, that Paul is a neat guy.
Yeah, he is a nice guy.
Who's a nice guy? Dan?
I've never heard that, nor do I think I ever will.
Okay, where we going
It's
here?
not a nice guy.
Yes, you're like that.
I'm known as a nice guy.
I'm known as a nice guy.
It's like the people around President Trump. I love you, President.
Get this meeting going, man.
Yeah, let's go.
It's 6, it's 6:45, we're to page 1 almost.
You helped contribute to that.
I'm not saying it wasn't my fault.
He's the new Jim Biggs.
I'm not saying it wasn't partially my fault, in some small piece.
You can make up for it, Dan.
There you come.
Are you waiting on me?
Yeah.
I was outside, I realized I took President Justin's spot. I was like, oops.
You got the food. Where are we back at?
Juvenile.
Oh, my God, come on, man.
All right, we'll call this meeting back to order, if we could, please. And juvenile probation, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the reduction of $17,223 from salaries and the Form 144 on the probation reduction.
Motion on the floor that has a second. The second's for the Form 144 as well.
Sure.
Reducing salaries and the Form 144 probation officer. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bozick?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
And Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you.
Wonderful. You too.
Adult probation.
I would make a motion, this is all grant stuff, so on the additional, all the additionals there and the 144s?
Second.
Motion on the floor that has a second for the additionals as well as the Form 144. Any discussion?
Are these,
Grant.
yeah, I understand that. Do you have people in place? You gotta hire all these people?
No, we already have people in place for these positions.
Any additional questions? And this is for all of it, so roll call, please.
Councilmember Bozick?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
And Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
7-0.
Very good, thank you. Expo Center, Lori.
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, on the transfers, both of them. She's got to get back to work.
Before I get up here.
They're teasing
That
with
was
a second.
That's my second. Second.
Motion on the floor with a second for the two transfers for the Expo Center. Any discussion?
How's the fair going?
It's busy.
Good.
It's been really good.
Got all your rabbits,
Oh, my God.
Old Toby Keith brought him in.
Toby Keith, 5 songs in, he would not leave the stage.
Stormy
No,
Road.
I saw him run from the stage.
Yeah, finally, when we got him off, they were ready to drag him off.
You were
He's gonna leave.
You were the Toby Keith?
I was sitting in the stand, believe me, I got wet.
You weren't the one to see the brazier up on the stage, were you?
No.
I think,
The biggest group they've ever had.
I think he was involved with the Red Solo Cup.
He did, he had some red solo. I didn't see it, though, I didn't. It is a 4-H fair, we don't condone that.
I'll tell you, he was up there playing, and in an instant, when you could see a line of rain coming, he was,
Is there any place in this county you're not at, Sylvia?
They did miss you at the foods auction, they said that. They did bring that up at the management meeting.
well, that's good to hear.
Any additional comments or questions on the motion? If not, for both, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, thanks, Lori.
See ya. Good luck.
Stormwater management, Bob.
So, I would like to make a motion, since I've talked ad nauseum to everybody about this, on the additionals and the 144 on the stormwater request.
Second.
Motion on the floor has a second for the two additionals as well as the Form 144. Any discussion?
How are we coming on salaries and stuff? Are we working on that, Bob? Adjusting things in the department?
Yeah, I'm working right now, currently, on reorganization scheme for budgets.
Very good.
Any additional questions?
So you're in a reorganization process?
Yeah, mainly with the engineering section, I would say.
Must be a working one. Okay.
We acquired the highway engineering over.
Oh,
Mike
yeah,
oversees
I understand.
all of the engineering for the county and
Mhm.
stuff like that, so I'm in the process of doing that reorganization.
Doing a great job in there, Bob.
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, we're all counting on you.
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? If not, we'll have roll call on all presented from Stormwater Management.
Okay, Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
And Councilmember Bozick?
Yes.
7-0.
Thanks, guys.
Plan Commission?
You're going to do Plan Commission.
that was supposed to be in my motion, I said everything under the stormwater management.
Yeah.
If not, I can make,
I thought I
That was my impression.
yeah, I thought we did it.
Okay.
I mean, we can do it again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Good day.
Porter Township Assessor.
Poor Alta, waiting there till the end. I'm going to make a motion on both of her additionals.
Second.
Motion on the floor, there's a second for both additionals from the Portage Township Assessor. Any discussion?
Just like to know how you're doing over there with you had personnel issues before, have you got that resolved and things moving forward?
For the moment.
Okay. Are you guys on schedule over there, or you kind of?
In fact, yes, we're ahead right now.
Oh, great.
Yes,
Good job coming before us, and nice job getting that done.
Also, just one question. Do they offer this,
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes.
A second?
You're it?
Yeah.
Second it.
Come on, Revis, keep up with the program, dude.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know.
Go ahead with your question, please.
Okay. Do they offer these courses in state,
No.
state of Indiana?
No, IAAO offers 13 week-long classes. The only ones they offer is for the level 3. They don't go beyond that.
And
So
you're actually going for another,
not another level. This is for continuing ed credits.
for your
But,
level 3?
Yeah, for my level 3. So I take the advanced courses because it helps me do my job better. You know, right now this course I want to take will help me do the ratio study better, more efficiently.
And I think part of Sylvia's question might be, is there any place closer that you could do it, or where?
No.
Where does this travel
I can
to?
only go.
She's going to Florida.
Not,
Florida.
yeah, no, all.
It's always someplace sunny and nice. There's nothing in North Dakota or anything like that?
No, I go to Hawaii, you know. But, no, a lot of the states don't offer these classes yearly. I have to go when they offer them.
Does that answer your question, Sylvia?
Oh, it is Florida.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, roll call on both additionals, please.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bozick?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas? 7-0.
Thank you.
Yep, have a good evening.
Sheriff. We got to be careful. I'd like to make a motion on the 3 additionals under the donations fund.
Second.
Motion on the floor that has a second for the 3 additionals coming out of the donations fund for the sheriff. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move on to roll call, please.
Okay, Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bozick?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
And Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
I have a question, though, just an intriguing question, nothing difficult.
You're going to go after the rifles, aren't
Yeah, the rifles, the donation to purchase rifles designed for canine patrol.
Do you know what it is?
You know what it is?
Yes, I do. It's a rifle that they can hold while they're holding their dog.
It's not a rifle for the dog to hold.
No, it's not a rifle.
It's much more compact and, and it's more balanced.
Okay.
Yeah, just to be able to handle both. Yeah.
Maybe I have to turn it over.
That's real nice.
Oh,
that's a good
okay. I figured something would let the dog go.
Yeah, I was yeah.
Keep sitting in my spot.
Very good.
Okay, is there a motion on the next request?
So I guess I want to make sure that I understand what we're doing here. And I've talked to the sheriff a couple times on this here. And I want to make sure that I have a handle on it. So the in-vehicle camera communication system, all right, so we've got how many years of, there's 3 years that we're going to have to pay, is that right?
For you,
Yes.
we're going to pay the first 2, the half of it. I've got enough real close, the half, the 117 times 2, the
Okay.
beginning 2 phases.
Okay.
That's coming out of our fund, the one you're asking for today.
Yes.
The next payment for year 2, I'm pretty close to it right now, so I'll have it. And I'm hoping with some money we've got in from forfeiture that I know has been approved, but I don't know how much because we have to share it with other agencies that work with the forfeiture.
I understand you guys made a pretty good,
Yeah.
your guy made a pretty good bust over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a real nice job.
Really impressive. Good job.
Good police work.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Very positive article.
Yes,
they
it
talked
was-
about
well,
it.
yeah,
We
we
had
had two
two.
things yesterday.
Well, one a while ago to South Haven.
Yeah, we had the pursuit yesterday that occurred up in North County, Route 20, a pretty good pursuit. The car flipped over 4 or 5 times. It would have been great to have a car camera then, but,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if we would have had it then, it would have been some good footage there for sure, so.
All right.
So this puts a camera in every car and a camera on every officer?
Right.
So this is just for the equipment, right?
Or half of the equipment, if I'm getting that right.
This is like a service contract.
So this is the maintenance contract, the service of it.
Everything. It's all the cloud for the video.
Storage, yeah.
It's all the cameras, everything, and the cameras it's like a service contract where we're not purchasing them, it's a service. And we're buying the service from them, and they replace anything that breaks that's not, because they're not taking care of it, is part of that. And in 3 years, they replace all our cameras to updated cameras.
So after the phases are done, what are our reoccurring costs in the future then, I guess, is my question. So.
Well, we'll renegotiate after 5 years.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to have this, I know I'm going to have the second year, this first half and the second year, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to have the third year also.
Sure.
But if not, whatever I have, we need to come forward, I'll use whatever I have in that fund at the time. We're getting quite a bit out of the forfeiture because it got a lot of activity, with Sheriff Reynolds in there and kind of pushing.
Yeah.
And I can show you right now what we have that is approved and what is coming to us, but it depends on how much our guys worked on it versus other
Right.
agencies. So we get a percentage. We've had percentages as low as 1% and as high as 80% of
Sure.
forfeiture.
So this is going to cover every officer and every car.
And every car, yeah.
For 3 years, is that what?
5 years.
For 5 years? But you have money for 3 years?
I have, I'm going to have, I'm going to have 2 years, and I'm hoping to have,
$117,000 a year, right?
No, it's 58,500 after.
year.
Total amount's $468,000 as I see it.
Right, and I have the money right now to pay the 234, and I'm real close to having year 2. And then if things keep going, I might even have year 3. And if things keep going until I can't.
Well, keep it
do
going.
Yeah, I'll keep it going. And if whatever I have in there, if we have to come and ask you for help the 4th and 5th year, we'll use whatever we have.
Right.
And then we won't come in for the whole thing. We'll be just using what we have and then come.
And this is the contract,
Mhm.
and the commissioners have approved it?
No, we will be going to them in 2 weeks.
And these are like,
No, so this includes everything, like the storage of all?
It's a cloud storage, so
Of
we
the-
don't have
of
to,
the
we don't have
filming,
to
yeah.
store everything. It's uploaded immediately, it's instantaneous uploading, so nobody can erase anything, it's immediate right now. It's actually kind of a hidden camera in your shirt, so people won't even know that you.
You have one on now?
I know.
Most people that come into this room have some sort of wire on.
I don't, but it's
a waste of storage.
It's state of the art. It's really, really good stuff.
How long do we have to keep this as a cloud? 2 years?
Well, that's based on what the policy is, and I think there's some state mandate on it. I don't know exactly what it is.
So who will create the policy on what you guys will keep? I mean,
We'll create a policy. We've already been kind of picking the brains of other departments throughout the state who already have the same body cameras.
you guys were paying for a certain amount of storage, so you want to get rid of...
Storage is unlimited.
Oh, it's unlimited?
Unlimited.
Oh, wow.
is it going to cause you a lot of work to look things up when people request the freedom of information and such?
Yeah, well,
There'll
that's
be a
another
charge.
reason we chose this part, is the redaction part, so if you request it, so we can redact people's faces in there. It's a little time consuming, but it's much more user friendly than the other 5 or 6 that we looked into.
Plus, we're also looking at going ahead and getting an ordinance to put in charge for this, and then that money will go into the ordinance, and that can help pay for this also.
That's great.
Who wears them, just the officers or all the detectives, everybody?
Everybody will have one. Detectives probably won't be using it too much every day, but your patrol guys will have it on every day. But detectives will be able to take it out. You can use it for more than just, you can use it for video in a crime scene. You can take pictures with it.
But no personal use, I hope.
No, probably not.
You don't want that in the cloud, I'm sure.
Absolutely not.
What other departments around here? Are we the first one to go?
Valparaiso's going to...
Car and body?
No, they're just going just body. Hendricks County has it. I know big cities like Memphis PD just went to it, and they put a lot of money into this system. Marion County.
Both car and body? I'm wondering,
Yes, Hendricks did both. Lawrenceburg, the city of Lawrenceburg, I think in Indiana, did both car and body.
So what, again, it's just intriguing, so what happens if I'm an officer and I jump out of my car in pursuit? What triggers the camera to start on my body?
That's a good question. This camera specifically, if you start running, it's already going to start recording.
Just body
So it
motion?
doesn't record when they're
If
in the
you're going to
back?
run it a body motion, or
They can
it's
turn it
actually
off.
voice
Yeah.
activated.
Siri?
You could say, yeah, like Siri, and it's only off your voice, body camera on, and it just goes off your voice and starts recording.
That's pretty cool.
There's a lot of great features with it. If there's a gunshot, it'll go back so many seconds, and it will tell you what caliber the gun is. And, because if we carry like 9 millimeters, and if a 40 goes off, it'll know it's a 40 caliber, so we know it's not our gun. So we'll start looking around on that camera.
Just so I'm clear, so it's a 5-year program for, call it $500,000, so $100,000 per year, total is $468.
Yeah, well, we're paying the 234 this year, or
Right,
when we
I'm
started.
just saying, total, it's $100,000.
The total contract he's asking, what's the total contract?
Yeah,
$468.
468.
And then, and as I understand it, we're paying for the contract, data's included, that's kind of an all-in price for 5 years.
Right.
But then when 5 years rolls around,
Then you
it's time to re-up.
renegotiate with them.
Continue to pay probably $100,000, so it's.
Well, I don't think we'll have to do,
$100,000 a year.
I don't think we have to
expense
redo,
going
I think it works. The 58,000 they have, was it 3, 4, and 5? That's what you would. It's probably gonna be closer to that, like 58,000 for the 6, 7, 8, 9.
yeah, the initial setup is this.
We're never gonna pay that
Yeah.
initial big the installation price and.
You seen that contract?
Has that been brought out beyond year 5 to know that specific, because that's a pretty important component of it? What the cost.
From what I
of year
understand,
six,
it's
year
never,
seven.
you'll never get that big lump sum again. It'll be a yearly, like the 58,000.
Just initial setup?
But it would be, it might be
Correct.
more than.
So they're gonna
58.
set, yeah, it could be 60. We don't have an exact price.
Has the county attorney seen that contract by any chance?
I've given it to them, yeah.
How about Harold here?
I don't think so.
We'd
Did I
like,
send that to you?
Because I don't want to grill him if he
Absolutely.
doesn't have that. I don't want to grill him if he.
Oh, he's not ready?
I guess one more thing, I think where we're kind of going is hidden costs, are we going to get hit with anything? What about the dispatchers? Will this be connected to them? Can they watch on their screens? Will this pop up?
Well, they won't be able to see what the camera's seeing, but they'll, I think, I know that it has GPS on it, so they'll know where we're at if something is happening.
So just recorded, there'll be no live screening or anything?
Correct. It does integrate with our current Tibron system.
we won't have to be
Okay.
worrying about anybody not having their camera on or anything like that.
Well, that's
It is
what
technology.
policy has to dictate. We have to have policy knowing when you have to have it on, when you can have it shut off.
That's a policy that you guys take care of.
I'm sure the commissioners would probably work with you guys in that, I would imagine.
One specific question I have additionally, on the contract, it talks about a no-cost test evaluation phase, where you test the product. Has that occurred?
No, we haven't done that.
No, probably because we did so much research on it. We knew, like, so we did like 5 different, Motorola, T-View, Body Cam, another one.
Where you actually went through the testing phase and process?
We've actually used other cameras. This camera specifically,
I don't think so, this is over time.
other cameras, they were like out in the open on your body. You could rip it off. A bad guy could, grab it from you and take off with it. Never been uploaded. This camera, it would take an act of God to get away from you almost. I mean,
This is all the retirement.
that's why we didn't have to specifically actually do a test with it, because we knew the other tests we did, we didn't like it.
It seems like that'd be a potentially advantageous thing to do with that specific equipment, that they're willing to offer in the contract.
Yeah, that's why we didn't do it, because we did everything else on the others, but you're probably right.
Was there a copy of the contract, only something you got, or are we all supposed to have it, because I didn't get a copy?
I don't
I think the committee-
It may have been from the previous
I-
meeting perhaps or something?
I emailed it with everything in it this time, yeah. I don't think I emailed it to each one of you.
Harold, do you have any questions? If we enact this without the ordinance in place, just from the legal standpoint, do we need to have the ordinance in place prior to?
We're just moving money.
Well, and this is the first, and not, I know that you provided that previously, but the first that I've seen it, so I really can't intelligently answer that right now. I can certainly get back with you about that. I think it's a valid concern, but,
And pending commissioner approval.
Right.
Right.
Ultimately, that's,
And pinning down your 6, 7, 8, 9, what the ongoing cost beyond that is, just to be.
Yeah, but we have to, I mean, here's the thing, it's almost like we have this conversation about what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Both of them work, actually. So we've had occasions where the commissioners have approved contracts without talking to us about getting our approval for the funding, and then we find ourselves sitting there wondering why we're involved in this contract. So at times, the sheriff or whomever it might be has gone to us first, and then at times we say, well, wait a minute, we don't know if this is a contract that we want, that the county wants to be involved in, so you better go to the commissioners first and get the contract sorted out. I think either one of those two boards can approve contingent upon the other one approving it. And I don't, I mean, and I know that we're looking for an ironclad sort of rule, and that would be great, except for we just have had such weird things happen where one stop made more sense than the other. I mean, typically, I like to see the commissioners approve a contract, come to us, and then we can decide if we want to pay for it, so long as they made the approval contingent upon our funding of it. Problem is, they don't sometimes. So
right, I mean, they commit ourselves, but I mean, they're
So that
coming
got
to
me
us
concerned.
with funding right now for at least 3 years.
They've got the funding,
Right.
it's not like we're asking for additional
Right.
general fund money. Yeah, they have half the funding, and she's, we've heard her, and she's always on her word, so, and if, worst case scenario, the commissioners didn't approve it, this would, it'd be sitting in there, but it's not gonna be spent, because that's what we're approving it for, so.
I think this is a valuable tool for public safety. to do the job.
Well, and I think we heard a horrible story nationally on the news this weekend, too, so.
I don't watch the news, it depresses me.
I make a motion.
We have other departments that
I'll
have.
second the motion.
not-
Motion on the floor that has a second to approve the additional $234,000 to 3710 equipment. Any additional discussion, Mr. Larson?
Well, I guess we're entering into a large contract, and I guess I'd just feel better if there was an option out of the contract, say after 3 years, and we can't somehow pay for that contract. Is there any kind of, are we on the hook for the full 5 years? If you guys can't provide for year 3 or 4, there's issues there that I have questions about.
For a thorough review of the contract would be helpful.
And Jeff, I certainly can look at the contract with an eye towards that. I just haven't been able, it's the first I've seen it today, not through any fault of yours, but I certainly could
I just
look at
don't
that.
feel comfortable without
There's a termination clause. Now, here's the thing. See, that's a great point, but there's a termination clause in this, and I just looked at it right now, that so long as we make a written notice to terminate within 30 days of the expiration, we can get out of it. Now, the problem with those kinds of contracts, and I'm going to talk to the county attorney and ask him to review this, that's one of the questions I was going to ask, is that this county had occasion before to enter into a number of contracts that were auto-renewing. And that became somewhat problematic, because we started losing oversight when that happened.
Yes, it did.
So I would encourage the commissioners, when they entertain this contract, to make sure that there's not an auto-renewing clause, and in fact, there is a cancellation upon expiration. So
I just know that Chesterton's they were grant funded, and when the grant ran out, they had a real difficult time not having to renew the contract because of payment. So there were some issues there.
There's an escape clause, but we have to take it. We have to opt the escape clause. So one could argue it's auto-renewing.
Right, I see what you're saying, it's, like you said, it's cancellation upon expiration, and they want to renegotiate, but that's the commissioners, so we're just putting the money there, they could say no. I mean, have you guys talked to the commissioners in depth about this?
Yeah, the sheriff will talk.
Are you comfortable with us voting on this tonight?
I'd like to table it, but I just.
I would prefer, I would prefer.
We don't have a motion in front of us, though, so I can't.
It's got to be voted on.
I thought we did have a motion.
Yeah, we got a motion and a
We
second.
do. We have a motion, so we have to do something.
Okay, vote on that, and then vote to table.
Well, that's backwards.
Okay, Harold, are you ready to speak?
What I would say I would be most comfortable with an opportunity to read through it. I do see that there's a termination clause. It's a pretty lengthy contract. I would be more comfortable having an opportunity to read it. I'm certain it's.
I make a motion to table.
We're not signing it.
I will withdraw my motion.
You don't need to. You don't need to. The motion to table takes precedence. I'll
Okay.
second it, so. we'll just-
Right.
Motion on the floor to table and has a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, what's, I mean, I don't
You're, our lawyer asked for it.
I mean, your lawyer?
Our lawyer asked for it.
Which one, Dan?
Signed.
Well, and
Don't wait for my lawyer, Sylvia.
What I would say is, I would feel more comfortable having an opportunity to read it. I'm not.
When are the commissioners meeting next? Are you guys on their agenda?
I will be, yeah, we just didn't know.
When are they meeting next? I mean, you'll have time to discuss it. They could say no, if you and Scott decide that you don't like it. I mean, the money's there, we're not, I mean, they ultimately have to sign a contract, it's not us, but.
He's asked for it.
How about, well,
Any initial discussion on the motion to table?
before we, but there's the underlying motion, which might have some impact on the motion to table. I mean, one possibility is to approve it contingent upon our attorney's review. I've done that as a town attorney before, but that's up to you guys.
Can we make that, well, I mean, yeah.
Any additional comments on the motion to table? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Conover?
No.
Okay, Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bozick?
No.
Councilmember Rivas?
No.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
And Councilmember Witten?
Danny boy.
He didn't. What is the vote right now? No, I don't want to table it.
Okay, so motion to table failed.
Sorry.
4-3 vote.
I would like to make a motion.
We'll still have his input.
I would like to make a motion to approve this request pending our attorney and the county attorney and commissioner approval moving forward.
Second that motion.
Motion on the floor that has a second to approve the additional pending county council attorney approval and county commissioners approval and commissioners approval?
County
lawyer.
County lawyer.
Okay,
That-
the
yeah,
two attorneys
and
approval.
it was mentioned about an exit clause and whatnot.
So is the motion contingent upon the approval, or the review of the two attorneys?
Yes.
County attorney
Yes.
and point of order, since there's pending motion and second on the floor, I'd ask that the prior motion and second be withdrawn.
Withdrawn.
Yes.
That was yours, Karen? and-
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And so there was a second on Karen's new motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second
Yeah.
that.
Two of them.
Discussion on that.
Two of them.
I'd like to move the table. No, I'm just
So just to clarify, I mean, once Scott and our attorney decide on some language, whether it's the escape
If
clause
they're
or
happy.
whatever.
I'm not quite sure how you define their approval, which would
If
mean
they-
our
if our-
acceptance. I mean,
If our attorney thinks it's legally sound, then
A proposal I could make is certainly I just have a chance.
Let's put it all in his hand at the end.
Well, read
It does.
through it, and I'd let the
So it gets
council
the big
know
one.
that I've read through it. It's, here's what the termination clause provides for, and then we could, you may have to just table it for the next meeting for a full vote, but
That's what I wanted to do.
what I would say, I'm not trying to complicate matters, but Have I read it? No.
Should've
I would
taken
leave
it.
it to the discretion of the council. I'm happy to read through it and let you know what my thoughts are regarding termination, or the termination clause.
But you do understand, here's the thing, you do understand, we're not approving the contract.
Right.
That's, if we were sitting here at a commissioners meeting and Scott McClure had not seen the contract, there's no way they should vote on it. We're not approving the contract. We are approving the funding. So if the commissioner's attorney, the county attorney, and our attorney says this contract is a stinker, they ought not approve it. That's it, the end. That's our job.
Let me ask you a question to that end. So if we're approving the funding, the $234,000 specifically, is that specifically geared toward this particular vendor and only this vendor? Or are we saying there's $234,000 that if they, working with the Commissioner's Office, come up with a different plan, can use that $234,000?
I think we're basically just creating a line item, to be honest with you.
Yes, it's up to the commissioners to sign the contract at that point in time.
So it has no tie whatsoever to this specific
We don't pick the vendor. We move that money, and the horse is left the stable.
Harold, will you talk to Scott? Will you call him immediately and discuss our concerns, obviously with the, expiration clause, so it's not gonna auto, if we don't, within 30 days of expiration,
Is expiration, is that?
That seems like the biggest concern, right, is that when it expires, and they can renegotiate.
Well, and our attorney wants to just read it. Absolutely. And digest it.
We just approve the money.
You approve money.
We are on the hook for that money, though.
Well, if we don't agree with body cams or car cams, then vote no.
Well, there are some legalities to that.
Jeff, if you're not concerned about
vote no.
You can bring up what you want, I may save us a lot of work.
Well, I think that's why we completed our attorney line item.
Dave, to close the question, let's have a roll call, please.
Well, I'd like clarification again. What's the motion then?
But it's...
We're voting for the funding.
Pending attorney approval, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty hard to...
Harold is going to
define.
review it, Scott's going to review it, and if everything is in order, then
It's up to
the commissioners have to.
Harold really doesn't have the
You know.
authority to say no.
No.
Once we approve the money.
If Harold were to call us and say this contract is illegal on its face, that's a problem.
And I'm sure the company will work with us.
But honestly, once we approve the funding, adios. It's out of our hands.
But the reality of the funding issue is,
I think that's great.
the total price, if we're willing to commit to the total price, the $468, which half of it's been accounted for, plus year two has been accounted for,
Yeah, it will be.
which I trust that it will.
Hopefully.
So are we willing to risk the potential of having to cover the rest? That's the reality of it.
Well, we'll have to dig into his other funds if,
Pardon? Well, we will be generating funds, and I've got a forfeiture, I got a paper here showing $2 million, but I don't think we'll get that much.
$2 million?
Well, that's a forfeiture, that's the value of the forfeitures right
You just
now.
get a percentage of it, you're not
And we
going
just,
to
you get a percentage.
80%?
We're not gonna get to even 1%, even.
Okay, roll call on the motion, please.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Bozick?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
yes.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
And Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
7-0, approved.
That was fun.
And it's already, the article's already been written on the Times. Bob's already got the article up.
Brickner front page.
Next up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he's back.
What did we just do?
Did the equipment, now we're on,
The School Guard 911 app, right?
Yep.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
You sure you don't want to vote against that?
motion on the floor that has a second for $1,000 to go to contractual services for the setup fee, School Guard 911 app for self-school.
Sylvia, you want to table it?
Any discussion?
No.
No discussion.
Can I ask you a question about that? How many of the schools, do we actually have officers patrol, and are they there and opening and closing?
I could probably speak for just the county schools. We don't have any true full-time guys there. They actually contract us to work in the schools. So Wheeler has it, Boone Grove,
East Porter?
Couch, yeah, East Porter. They have one officer goes to those three schools, Washington, Morgan, and Couch. So they're there, but they're not like truly full-time policemen and dedicated to it all the time.
Do we get grant subsidies for those, or do they pay us?
I don't have, no, the schools actually pay us. I don't know the schools, I don't know how the school does it. I think they do get. some
Schools get funding for that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we're getting reimbursed for that, because I know that's an expense to us.
Yeah.
Any additional discussion? Roll call, please.
Okay, Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Bozick.
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen.
Yes.
Councilmember Witten.
Yes.
Councilmember Conover.
Yes.
And Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
7-0.
Make a motion to approve the two transfers on the jail inmate processing fund.
Second.
Motion on the floor, that is second, for the two transfers in the jail from contractual services to the miscellaneous accounts mentioned. Any discussion?
Harold, do you need more time to review the household bank?
I do not.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
That was when I was getting flat screens.
Oh, yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Sorry, I guess they
We
are.
have those big boxes, we still have those big boxes
Yeah.
that are, I mean, these are way cheap compared to what we...
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
I guess no one wants to talk about your drug
Good.
thing now.
Good. The drug inspection workstation?
Don't you want to hear about that?
What is it?
What is it? Yeah, I was wondering.
You wanted me to talk about it? Because of the new problem with the carfentanil, the fentanyl with the heroin, you just get just a speck of that, police officer overdosing on that. Sometimes the Narcan is, one Narcan
Not effective.
not doing it, two is not doing it, maybe 3 to 5 of the doses. Sometimes it's getting us back. So, because of that, the epidemic of that, the sheriff, the chief, the sheriff's department, we had a idea to, so we used to package all of our drugs and stuff like that right in the patrol room. And you guys seen our patrol room, and guys eat in that room. We do our stuff there. So we decided to dedicate a whole room just for evidence. Sheriff had asked me to do a little bit of research. Matt Steckley actually did a little bit too, because he's actually helping us redo the room. It's called the ductless fume hood. You actually put the narcotics in there, and then that's how you package them up, obviously. And then if there's anything that comes off of the narcotics, they'll get sucked up into a carbon filter and a HEPA filter. But it's not cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than taking care of the guys that are in the hospital.
Or,
Yeah.
have you had examples of that occurring in your guys?
Not here, but just throughout the country, we've had, multiple cases. Mainly out east, I don't know why there, but.
And then they just had a case in Florida, and they said it's less than the size of a pencil lead that the guy absorbed through the body, that carfentanil.
It could be a green.
It's still-
Yeah.
That's great.
It's scary, it really is.
Okay, any other comments on the motion that we already passed? I believe we did, didn't we? Okay, I think we're done with that, thank you.
Okay.
Next is Porter County Sheriff's Merit Board.
I'll let Chris sit up here.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Good. I would caution that pension discussions at the end of a very long meeting, but sometimes we might want to place that in the morning time. So you let me know if any of the conversations, if I'm heading beyond what you want to hear at this time.
Yeah, and so I think the thing to think about, or when we were having this discussion at our last meeting, are more related to, obviously, terms that were used in the policy we just passed, the policy change with actuarially neutral for adding, the additional layer of beneficiary. And then the other thing that we were most concerned about, I think, at our last meeting was At times, we've discussed the vesting, changing the vesting.
Yes.
And upping the vesting, and we've been told that that also is nearly actuarially neutral.
Yes,
And that,
it doesn't save money like it was initially thought.
okay, so I guess the question that I've got is, so where do we vest right now?
8.
And so if we took it to 10 or 15, it would be virtually
Nothing?
nothing.
Some, but minor, how many officers, let me give you an idea of how to calculate it.
That's what we want to know.
So, let's take PERF rather than the sheriff's pension for a moment. If somebody has 10 years of service, they're at 11% of their salary. They're not vested or anything because the state's longer, but, so somebody between 10 years and 12 years goes from 11% of their salary all the way up to 12% of their salary.
Right.
You know, it's just not moved. So whether it's 8 years or 10 years, it's not large amounts. They're going to get $4,000 a year, or they're going to get $4,200 a year. Does that make sense? It's just not, we figure the pension at the end.
So when you do when you sit down and do the actuarial calculation, and let's say that you have a series of, you have a group of participants, officers, and some are at 3 years, and some are at 4 years, and
they're not vested.
They're not vested. Do you do are those people included?
No.
So you wouldn't anticipate them retiring at 8 years? You wouldn't include them at all?
Oh, no, everybody's included for the vesting, if they're employed.
Right.
But, so we carry those numbers all the way out, but we also have 30 years to generate their money a little at a time. So the contribution was $1 million, it was $6 for this guy, you've got 30 years where we have to worry about vesting. So, yeah, the calculations, when you get to the vesting, that's what I'm saying, it just doesn't change the number a lot. And we ran those. We could be more specific. We ran a couple of them. I didn't know that was a question. I would have had it with me, a study we did several years ago. I can send that over.
Yeah, would you, because I think that was the big question. We were just looking for...
Sure. We actually did that number, and I don't think we need to request it again. You get an idea what size it is, and, yeah, I'll just jot down to do it. Other questions?
So when you were talking about, and this one seems more, at least more reasonable to me, or easy for me to get my head around, was the policy change that we did where we're adding a layer of potential beneficiaries. I mean, instead of just spouse, it's, et cetera, et cetera.
Unmarried.
So how is that actuarially neutral?
Okay, we thought you might ask that question. I'd be happy to explain it, but in your packets, we asked for the underwriter, for the actuary does everybody have these packets? We just handed them out?
Oh, it's very good.
Okay. So you have a letter there from McCready and Keene. I'd be happy to go through that letter with you. It is written by an actuary.
Yes, boring, just can you get to the good parts?
Okay, let me find my copy here that I'm finding. Give it to us and real signatures here. You'll see in the second paragraph, so it's only if somebody's vested, and in the unlikely event of them dying before they take their benefit. So we're down to very few people. I did a couple of numbers here. I've got, we currently have 4 employees over 50. You have to be 50 to get your pension, plus 20 years. There's 4. There's only 5 employees with more than 20 years. That will
If you're under 50,
well, you would get something, but it's all reduced amounts, and it can't be sooner than age 45 and married. That's it. There's just all these rules, so it's a very small amount.
So when you say 50 plus 20?
50 and 20 years.
And 20 years of service to get that death benefit?
No, to receive a full pension.
Well, to receive a partial pension.
To receive any
so the guy's got 8 or 9 years on, he
gets a partial pension.
Okay.
But it's discounted completely. Just like taking Social Security early, you go backwards, they didn't have. So unless you can reach 50 and 20 years, whatever pension it added up to is shrunk down.
What's the earliest?
45?
45 and 20 years, and even that takes like a 25% hit, just like 62 instead of 67 for Social Security.
How many guys have we had leave the department, go to another department and draw a pension from us?
Quite a few. When I say quite a few, I just handled one in this past month, was approved by the Merit Board. 10 years ago, there was a lot of federal jobs open between the airports and everything else, and the chance for an officer at Porter County wages to go to the federal government, get a better pension. So that officer had enough years, they delayed their pension. It didn't change, the number's the same number we printed in a letter in 2003, is the same amount they get when they get to 50. It doesn't earn interest.
Right.
It was $500 a month, I'm just saying. And so it's $500 a month, 15 years later, he can collect it now.
So a guy that's got 8 years on and leaves after 8, if we increase the salaries for patrol officers, doesn't change him, unlike PERF, maybe where those guys get raises with the...
And they can take it out lump sum if they choose.
They do have a lump sum option, but our lump sum option on this plan was written 14 years ago. And so it's at an interest rate that almost no officers are interested in. In fact, in this letter, it says they don't even do a number, they assume nobody's going to take a lump sum. The exception would be somebody who has another job. Let's take this officer I'm describing. His pension is 3 times as much from the federal government. He's making 5 times as much as he made here. He doesn't need $2,000 or $500 a month in his income. He'll take any lump sum. It's what the heck, give me 100, fine. I'll put it in the bank till I'm already 50 and I plan to retire federally at 57 for a full retirement. So somebody like that might take a lump sum regardless how small it is. That makes sense?
If I work 5 years and leave, do I get anything in return?
At 5 years, you would get 25%. You'd be vested 25%. So 5 years, theirs is 2.5% a year. So that'd be, you would get 25% of 12.5%.
I guess.
Or about, let's just call it 4% for a round number.
I guess my question, and that leads where Jeremy was at, is do we have a number of how many officers have left and how many we're actually currently paying? How long a service they had and how many we're actually paying in retirement that have left and gone to other departments? My thought behind that is if we had extended that retirement age to 15 years or more, we may not be on the hook for any retirement those officers had left. That's the only question.
Slightly smaller. This particular one had 10 years, it was past 8. So if you do the vesting, yes, they would get a smaller number, just like you asked me a calculation for 5 years. So we're talking 4% of a $50,000 salary, they got,
Right, $2,000 a year.
Yeah, $2,000 a year coming to them. Most of them at 5 years are going to look at that, and then it's discounted in addition, and they're going to say, you know what, my other option is to take my refunded contributions and walk away. Most of them, somebody with age 28, 29, I could get $3,000, or I could have $100 a month when I'm 50, I'll take $3,000.
Is this plan, do they have a voluntary option on this?
No, no voluntary, no nothing, no investments. It's all by state statute.
How does our vesting schedule compare to surrounding counties, do you know? Surrounding sheriff's departments?
Surrounding sheriff's departments, Lake County is the roughest. They're 20 years.
Okay.
But it's 20 years and out. Full pension, lump sum option. So they don't have to be 50, but so at 15 years, you're only 75%. It's 5% a year. Starts at 50 or like yours does, and it's 5% a year. Yours goes 25, 30, 35, 100 at the 8th year.
So the 25, they earn the 25 after how many years?
5 years.
5 years.
It's 0 until 5 years.
So what's the The eighth year.
100%.
That's the full.
100%.
100% vested.
25, sixth year is 30, seventh year is 35, eighth year is 100.
So if we went, all right, we're 8 years vested, and we went to 15, what we're paying here, that we're paying every year,
It's
that
not
doesn't...
going to change much at all. I'll send you the number. I don't know that we did 15, I think we did 10 and 12 at that time. I know we did 10, but you can just see the difference for that. 15, yes, it's worth some money, but it's like the question they answered on this one, where sure, a beneficiary on the non-married death benefit, they point out that in their actuarial figures, out of $15 million, the whole death benefit, not the change, the whole death benefit accounts for like $90,000 of the cost, 0.5%. This is going to be something similar. It accounts for, that's of the whole plan, then the contribution would be a proportionate amount of that. So it's 0.5%. 0.5% of $1 million, you know, would be a large number in that case, you know, we're talking 5,000. So, you know, it might make a difference, it's not going to make much.
It'd definitely be helpful to have, you said it was 10 and 12 years, what we looked at previously?
It was 10, I believe, and I will send that. I know we shared it before.
Available, and for people who weren't here or familiar with it at the time,
We'll copy it to the whole council. Or do you want, instead of one?
Send it to all of us.
Send everybody.
Send it to everybody. I'm sure we have all that.
And then to that point, if, taking it from 8 to 10 and 8 to 12, apparently when it was reviewed before, it didn't make a material difference.
It was small.
What if it was more similar to, say, how Lake County's was structured? Would that make it a
It
significant
would
difference?
begin to save more. I would, I don't think we want to run all those studies, but take a look, and if you do want to request another study, every one we do costs another $1,500, $2,000 or something.
But you referred to it as a rough plan. I think you referred to it as a rough. They're the roughest.
Yeah, theirs by far, nobody else is doing 20-year, but they also give
Reward if you stick around to the 20.
at 20,
Yeah.
so it's all about 20. LaPorte County,
Healthcare too, correct?
yes, they get health insurance, they get all kinds of things.
Full
If
healthcare.
you
I
do
thought
20 years.
Lake County took that away.
No,
The lifetime.
no, haven't touched it. The only thing they changed was a new employee goes on a completely different plan.
Okay.
And they did that, 3 years ago?
What plan is that?
Like $1,000 deductible, and there's not all the retirement stuff, and so
I know they took it away, I know Lake
They
County
did
took it away
100% change for every new employee
but
from
I
that
don't
day
think the
on.
Sheriff's
Okay,
Department or not.
Gary, you mentioned that they also get health benefits. What do they pay into the health benefit plan? A COBRA rate, or what they were paying as an
Chris would
employee?
know that more than I would, for sure.
Almost nothing. They can keep the single for like $100,
Yeah, that's almost...
family for $200 or something.
It's not like they're paying a COBRA rate, because
No.
when you're a 20-year employee, sometimes you could pay the COBRA rate.
Oh, yeah, what kind of deal is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody can
Yes.
do that.
That's your whole pension check.
Yeah.
Nobody can do
No,
that.
good point. So there's their whole formula, and I'll ask their permission to send that page over as well. We keep the page that we hand out to each officer, but it's an ordinance, and so if you have 25 years and reach age 60, it's 0 for the rest of your life. Now, they have a right to change it someday, but they've not changed it in the last 20 years.
I believe their buyout's significantly different also, isn't it?
Yes. They have a much different percentage, so the percentage on this plan was set then, even the actuary has said, that's not the right number, that's why nobody's taking it, that's why we don't include it, we don't even estimate, so few people take it. We'd like to bring those options back and talk, but all those are costs, so we only wanted to present this year. I think the department was thankful for the raises and everything else. We just looked at a plan change that had no cost. We didn't want to bring up, would you give us COLA, can we change this number that have, we will talk those, we always run those numbers, we have those ahead of time, but those are longer-term discussions, that if we're going to talk about changing vesting and stuff, we could run more numbers on that. We would trade off and say, well, here's some of the things we're looking at, you know, let's find a happy medium, you know, between taking this away and giving them, because even your perf and everybody else have some kind of COLA. I did a few numbers here. There's people who retired or were widowed 20 and 30 years ago getting $100 a month, $300. It's never gone up. It's still the same number. It's like, oh, my God.
Do we know pension costs comparably to other departments our size? Are we in the middle of
Yes.
the road, or are we?
Yes, so I prepared those numbers as well. So your pension last year was everything's done a percent of payroll. You think of it as $1 million, but let me switch it to pay. So it's, in 2000 for 16 was 32%. For 2017, it is 30.4%. Now, that's significant that we're bringing it down. I'm sorry, I missed those years, 17 and 18. I'm looking at next year's. And let me just pull that page out while I tell it. So, in fact, it's in your packages.
Is that because of our wage increases that number went down?
Well, the amount you paid went up, but the amount went down because the plans owed a lot of money. Everything else is working right. All of our assumptions were favorable.
Right.
So if you look at the math here, so last year the contribution was $1,048,000, this current year. Next year it'll be $1.1 million. That's up $52,000, but the payroll went from $3.3 million to $3.6 million. So 30.4% of $3.6 million is only $52,000 higher than 32% of $3.3 million. Make sense now?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to all the math. I could have written that out better, but this is what he said, and I made sure I wanted to put those numbers on it.
How does that 32 for 17 and 30?
Okay, so you have to compare that to other plans. Here's, I jotted those down here. Let me just check my notes so I don't. I made a number of notes not knowing what questions you would ask. And I did that one. Shoot, I just have to find it. I'm quite sure Lake County's is 43%. LaPorte is 36%.
Is that because their plans aren't performing as well as ours, or?
The majority of that is COLA. COLA is expensive.
Right. Right.
Your plan's 30.
Gotcha.
So let me ask you maybe an overarching question. In all the reviews that we've done with salaries and pay and benefits, and health benefits and pension, as we've looked at that over the years, have we looked at that in a comprehensive way as compared to counties our size? And how do ours fare?
Sure, we can do more comparisons. LaPorte's a good example. They're very similar, number of officers and the rest. Their
So
plan
in terms
has,
of vesting and that sort of thing relative to...
we've not compared each one, but that's a good idea, because there's so many pieces different between every plan. But that's what I'm saying, there's the major difference between them. We can look at the vesting, they're quite similar. I think theirs is a hair longer. 13. Thank you, Robin. So they went to 13.
So ours is 8, theirs is 13.
Yeah. And the main difference, like I said, on theirs is they have COLA.
Right.
We just were asked to do a study by Lake County Council. A couple of people got a hold of their councilman and said, you know, my disability or my retirement, you know, all these haven't increased in forever. And so we get the letter from them saying, why aren't they? We should look into this. Your plan can fund it. Well, no. The actuaries decide what it can fund, and it will only increase the county's contribution. I don't think they understood that part, so we've said we will prepare the study. We've requested it. We'll get it back. We'll present it to them.
Gotcha.
But they have COLA, but they did not put COLA on disability, so we will look at that. But when a disability occurs, the merit board already has the latitude to decide the size of the disability and give them up to the retirement benefit.
But they get no cost of living adjustment.
But they never get a COLA, But if we bump somebody up to around 70% of their salary, it starts out a higher
Yeah,
number.
that's
10
right.
years later, it's not as good. 20 years later, it doesn't stand a chance of being up to date.
Right.
But do we change, you know, you can't just give everybody COLA today if we just awarded them a 70% benefit.
Right.
And 2 years later, we're giving them COLA. It's like, well, wait a minute, we would never give them 70%. We're giving them 50.
Right, right. I get it.
So, you just can't change one thing at a time. You have to, okay, you follow. So.
I got you.
Pretty good for this late in the evening.
Yeah, not bad.
Any other questions?
That's the questions I had, and I'm sure I'll have some follow-ups, but I want to see, I'd like to see the things we asked for. Chris, if you could get that to us.
Sure.
I mean, I know
Now-
this is a discussion, but...
It's not the most interesting reading, but does the county council ever look at the actuarial valuations annually?
We do, and
Make
you
sure we send them out,
you
right?
are correct. It is not the most interesting reading.
It is not, it's very, you really, even with the pension committee, when we have the actuary come, we cover a few points a year. You know, why cover every page of it? It's like, this is interesting, this is, you know, like every third page, you go, do you understand why this is?
Yeah.
Maybe if we do a session like that, whether it's the whole council or whoever wants to be on a committee.
Yeah, my suggestion is one or two of us take it for the team on that. I've been down that road before, and it's rough.
Take it for the team or to the team?
Both, for the team and then for the team.
But that would help, especially if we're going to start the discussion on changing benefits. I could share enough information that we build it up over 3, 4, 5 meetings, even the course of 2 years.
Right, and here's the thing, I mean, I'm just speaking for me, man. I mean, this whole thing is starting with, I'm not one of those guys that's looking for a savings just to have a savings. We're looking for places where we can find some money that we can get back to the sheriff's department. I mean,
Yes.
that's what we're looking for here, in starting this conversation. So.
Makes sense, yeah.
So that's what spurred up the questions, and,
No, good places to look.
you know, so.
Vicki, on our last, I was on that last committee.
Yeah.
You were on there too, weren't you, Vic? I think that'd be a good idea if you guys do form a committee.
Oh, Sylvia and Dan.
Have the auditor, have the auditor,
And Sylvia.
also.
And Mike.
Just got to be another Mike here.
Do you have a copy of the whole plan, like a
Sure.
summary plan description, an SPD or something?
We have a short version. If it shows all the, I don't think you want to read the whole one, but you're welcome to it. It's public record, and I'll send it anytime you ask for it.
Yeah, I like the plan.
I'll send you the short one.
So, Mike, what I would suggest, and we did this some years ago, is we sent a couple of council members off into the abyss, and they did just what Chris is suggesting, and they looked at some of the other plans in surrounding counties, and they talked to some of the council members over there, and I think Bob Hoprod might have led that team up, and came back and kind of gave us a sort of detailed report. So if we could do that, I do not want to be on that committee, but I encourage others to do that.
Certainly solicit for volunteers. Sylvia has mentioned she'll do it.
I don't care. I'll do it.
Jeff will do it. And Vicki, would you also be willing to participate in that?
Yes, I would.
Anybody else want to jump in?
I'll sit, I mean, I'll.
Go ahead.
Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy.
Vicki, Jeremy.
Jeff and Sylvia.
There's a very good chance we'll never see them again.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
That's the best. I said, no way.
that'd be great. That would be a really great start to,
Yeah.
there's a dialogue, man. I mean, this is.
It is, it's just, we could cover parts, we'll cover I'll send, so right now the list is, whenever we got that study done, I'll send you whatever the information on it was,
Yeah, send that to everybody, please.
to everybody and the SPD, the short version.
That'd be great,
Yeah.
man. That'd be great, man.
And then, we have a meeting coming up, the pension committee, we'll discuss a couple things that we might be able to do with, your committee and set a meeting, so give us, that way, because I know we're meeting within, what, a week? 23rd. Thank you. I was thinking like the first week of August, yeah.
That sounds good, man. I like it.
All right, we'll follow up from
Fantastic.
there.
Thanks for coming, man.
Good. Thanks for the information.
Okay.
All right. Anybody thinks of any more questions, like shoot us the question anytime, just send it and to Edie or whomever, and she'll get it to us, and we'll get it back to you.
Sounds good.
I'm not sure
Very good.
shooting
Thank you.
is the right term.
You don't have Porter County,
If you send it to the council, she'll send it out to everyone.
well, we could send it to everybody, because some of you use your personal emails, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't commingle, I have one specifically, yeah, because I don't want those to be subject to
What,
freedom of
if we
information.
send over, would everybody fill out the email that's all on it?
Just saying is all.
Everybody would just email me their email.
Mine's a work.
And actually, all I gotta do is ask George.
Got some contact,
Oh, okay.
understand bullies now.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sounds
Have a
good.
great evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Second reading, Madam Auditor.
Okay, whereas it has been determined that it is now necessary to appropriate more money than what was appropriated in the annual budget, therefore be it ordained by the Porter County Council of Porter County that for the expenses of the taxing unit, the additional sums of money are approved. General fund, a total reduction of $14,848. Plan Commission fund, $12,000. Stormwater fund, $48,240. Sheriff Donation Fund, $19,000. Table Franchise Fund, $213,526.39. DEA Burn Memorial Grant Fund, $235,000. Yes. Adult Probation Community Corrections Grant Fund, $120,000, and PCC RVC Fund, $482,000. And that concludes second reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion on the floor, it has a second to approve second reading. Roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Bozick.
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen.
Yes.
Councilmember Witten.
Yes.
Councilmember Conover. Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
And Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
7-0.
7-7.
Perfect, thank you. Attorney's report.
Great time.
I just want to clarify, with the contract for the body cameras, I will look through those.
You've come very unprepared today, that's all I've got to say.
I'm the one that's disappointed.
Well, I just want to point out that I will,
You're on the hook, buddy.
well, on this one,
Did you not see this coming?
I think clearly what I can do for the council is read through it and spell it out, and then the council ultimately is going to have to make some decisions, I think, at the next meeting. I know it's contingent, but I see, after having reviewed it, my role, and I just want to make sure everyone is on the same page, that I'm doing what the council wants, that sort of an explanation of what the contract provides for, and then the council can decide at that point in time if the council wants to fund it. I understanding, of course, that the commissioners, well, it was contingent, and so understanding that the commissioners have to approve the contract. I just want to make sure that I understand what the council wants with regard to that.
Okay. As convoluted as it is, you have a good understanding.
Okay, good.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, do we have, Madam Auditor?
Yes. Well, first off, I apologize for not getting you the policy ahead of today. I did give it to the council office today. A couple of you did ask to see it ahead of time, but I think we've been pretty busy trying to save money by doing the TIF report in-house. So in the best interest of time, if you would like to just defer this to next month, you could read the policy and then approve it.
And we, yeah, like
Motion to
Harold
table.
to look at it, too.
Okay.
I'll second the
Very
motion
good.
to table.
Motion on the floor to table the information regarding the penalty waiver policy. Any discussion?
We understand that you're busy and that you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
But I do just want to say that
No,
this is
no.
part of a change in state law, and in order for us to waive penalties on delinquent taxes, we now have to have a policy
That's right.
approved by the auditor
right.
and treasurer, but implemented by us, but approved by the.
So no backroom meetings with people just sort of waiving
No, I don't-
penalties when there's no basis to do
Who
so?
does that?
Absolutely not.
All
In
right.
fact, I've been
That's
told
good.
that
Who
I'm
does that,
a little
Dan?
bit stricter than we've had in the past.
Let's just say we're not doing that anymore.
Right. No, I wrote the policy, Michelle looked it over, and now it's before you, but.
Sounds good, Vicki. I think you've done a great job. Thank you for your dedication to the team. It will not go unnoticed at budget time.
Well,
I would like
All those in favor of the table motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion is tabled.
Thank you.
But
Adjourn?
No.
I'd like to make a motion to...
Motion adjourned, second.
No, say all no discussion. There's gotta be discussion.
Aye, all those opposed?
Are you really, I can discuss anything?
Want to stay tonight?